She thought she'd escaped the cage, but freedom comes with new battles and old ghosts aren't done haunting her yet. Love, loyalty, and survival are about to tear her world apart. Juliette wakes to the muffled hum of Omega Point's underground world. It's been 2 weeks since she arrived, but she still feels like an outsider. The rock walls feel too solid, the ceilings too low. She misses the sky, even if the world above is cold and dying. Adam is beside her, still sleeping, his breath steady. The sight of him here safe, alive is the only thing that settles her. But she can't ignore the tension that's been creeping between them. They're together, yes, but they're also living in a war zone, surrounded by strangers with abilities she doesn't understand. Castle believes control is everything. Each day, Juliette trains with him and other members of Omega Point, trying to channel her lethal touch into something precise instead of destructive. But the progress is slow. Gloves help, but the fear doesn't leave her. Her classmates keep their distance. Some look at her with curiosity, others with open suspicion. She feels like she's being tested constantly, not just by Castle but by the walls themselves. Kenji has made it his personal mission to keep her from drowning in her own thoughts. He shows up at her door, cracks jokes during training, and pokes fun at her whenever she gets too serious. It annoys her, and yet she finds herself grateful. Kenji doesn't treat her like a monster or a fragile glass figure. One afternoon during sparring, he lets her slam him to the mat just to see her smirk. She pretends not to notice. Adam's been different lately. He's quieter, more distant. When they train together, he's careful not to touch her skin. Not because he fears her, but because he knows Castle is watching. The pressure to prove themselves as assets to Omega Point is heavy, and it's weighing on him. Juliette wants to ask him what's wrong, but every time she tries, they're interrupted. She tells herself it's nothing. Castle calls a meeting in the briefing room. The Resistance has learned of a munitions storage facility under re-establishment. Control one that could supply weapons to 6 sectors. The mission is dangerous. Infiltrate, destroy the supplies, and get out before reinforcements arrive. Kenji, Adam, and Juliette are all assigned to the team. Castle doesn't sugarcoat the risks. Juliette's heart pounds, not just at the thought of the danger, but at the realization that she'll be stepping back into a world ruled by Warner's men. The team leaves before dawn, moving silently through the snow-blanketed wasteland. The cold bites at Juliette's cheeks, the wind slicing through her coat. She hasn't been outside since her escape from Sector 45, and the devastation is worse than she remembered. Skeletal trees, gray skies, fields of frost-covered ruin. Adam keeps his gaze forward, his rifle steady in his hands. Kenji is a blur of motion, scanning every shadow. The storage facility rises from the snow like a black scar. Guards patrol the perimeter in heavy gear, weapons slung across their backs. Kenji uses his invisibility to slip ahead, taking out the security cameras before they move in. Inside, the air smells of oil and cold metal. Crates are stacked floor to ceiling, each marked with the re-establishment's insignia. Juliette follows Adam's lead as he plants explosives at key points. They're almost finished when a group of soldiers rounds the corner. The firefight is immediate, deafening in the enclosed space. Adam moves with deadly precision, Kenji flanking him. Juliette takes down 2 soldiers with a single touch, their bodies crumpling to the ground. Her heart is pounding, adrenaline mixing with something darker, the ease with which she's starting to kill. They barely make it out before the charges detonate. The blast shakes the ground, sending a wave of heat and snow into the air. The facility collapses in on itself, flames licking at the night sky. Castle will call it a victory, but Juliette can't shake the weight in her chest. Every step away from the wreckage feels heavier than the last. Back at Omega Point, Adam is silent during debriefing. When she finds him later, he tells her they need to talk. His voice is tense, his eyes shadowed. Something about the way he says it makes her stomach knot. Whatever this is, it's not going to be a conversation she wants to hear. Adam waits until they're alone in one of the quieter tunnels. His jaw is tight, his hands restless. When he finally speaks, his voice is low, almost careful, as if the truth itself might break her. Castle had him tested, he says. Tested to see why he's immune to her touch. The results weren't what either of them expected. He's not entirely immune. The immunity only works sometimes when his adrenaline spikes, when his heart rate changes, and it's getting weaker. Juliette stares at him, the words slow to sink in. The certainty she's clung to that Adam could always touch her suddenly feels fragile. She asks if that means she's hurting him. His silence is answer enough. The conversation leaves a chasm between them. They still train together, still sleep in the same bed, but something in Adam's touch has changed, tentative where it was once sure, fleeting where it was once certain. Juliette feels herself retreating, pulling her emotions inward to keep from shattering. It's a habit she thought she'd left behind in her cell, but here it is again, wrapping around her ribs like wire. Castle notices. He calls her into his office and asks in his calm, unyielding way if she's committed to being part of Omega Point. She says yes, but even she can hear the hesitation in her voice. Castle tells her she needs to be stronger, for herself and for the people who will come to depend on her. Juliette leaves the meeting feeling cornered. Everyone here seems to want something from her, and she's not sure she can give it. Kenji is the one who forces her out of her spiral. He drags her to the training rooms, puts her through drills until she's sweating and furious. When she snaps at him, he only grins and tells her she needs to stop acting like a porcelain doll. "You're strong," he says, "but you keep hiding it under all this fear, and that's going to get you and everyone else killed." It's the first time she's heard someone say it so bluntly. She doesn't know whether to thank him or hit him. Another assignment comes in recon on a supply route the reestablishment has been using to move troops between sectors. Juliette goes with Kenji and a small team, Adam excluded this time due to an injury from the last mission. The plan is simple: observe, report, return. But as they watch from a ridge, they see something they weren't expecting: Warner himself, inspecting the convoy. He's alive, unscathed, and wearing that same infuriating calm. For a moment, their gazes lock across the distance. Juliette feels the air shift, her pulse spike. She tells herself it's just adrenaline, just the shock of seeing him again. But she can't deny the jolt of recognition, the way he seems almost relieved to see her alive. Kenji notices and curses under his breath, telling her they need to move before they're spotted. The encounter with Warner follows her back underground. She tells Castle what she saw, and his expression darkens. Warner is too close for comfort, and Omega Point's location is still a closely guarded secret. Adam listens quietly as she relays the details, but says nothing about Warner. Later, though, she catches the flicker of something sharp in his expression: jealousy, maybe, or worry. That night, Juliette lies awake, thinking about the look in Warner's eyes. She hates that it's stuck in her mind, that it's intruding on everything else: her training, her relationship with Adam, even her own sense of safety. She tells herself it's because Warner is dangerous, that she needs to stay alert. But there's a small, treacherous part of her that remembers the way he once touched her hand like it was something precious. Kenji corners her in the mess hall the next day. He tells her Adam's been asking questions about Warner, about what happened when she escaped Sector 45. Kenji's not accusing her of anything, but his tone makes it clear she needs to figure out where her heart is before someone else gets hurt. Castle calls the senior operatives together. Intelligence has pinpointed a reestablishment building storing classified files on troop movements and civilian control. It's guarded, but the files could give the resistance an edge. Juliette, Kenji, and a handful of others are chosen. Adam isn't. She wonders if Castle is keeping them apart on purpose. Snow crunches under their boots as the team moves in formation toward the reestablishment facility. The building looms ahead, stark, angular, its windows black as obsidian. Kenji is already cloaked in invisibility, slipping ahead to disable security. Juliette's gloves are tight against her skin, a constant reminder of what she can do. They're supposed to be in and out quickly, but the weight in her stomach tells her it won't be that simple. Kenji gives the signal. The outer cameras are down. They slip through a side entrance, weapons ready. Inside, the air is sharp with the smell of disinfectant. Juliette keeps to the rear, her eyes scanning the whitewashed halls for movement. A guard rounds the corner unexpectedly. Before Juliette can react, one of their teammates takes him down with a silent strike. The sound of his body hitting the floor seems to echo forever. They reach the records room, rows of locked cabinets and secured computer terminals. Kenji starts pulling files while the others copy digital data onto portable drives. Juliette stands watch at the door, her ears tuned to every sound. Then she hears it. Footsteps, slow and deliberate. He steps into view like he's been expecting her. Warner, immaculate in his uniform, green eyes fixed on her as if she's the only person in the room. The world seems to narrow to the space between them. Juliette, he says softly, and her name sounds different in his voice, not like an accusation, not like a threat, but like something he's been holding on to. Juliette's pulse spikes. She should raise her weapon, call for Kenji, do anything but stand here. But Warner's gaze holds her. He doesn't reach for a gun. Instead, he takes a slow step forward, his expression unreadable. You don't belong here, he says. Not with them. Not underground like a fugitive. You're stronger than this. Stronger than all of them. She tells him to move aside. He doesn't. He steps closer, lowering his voice so only she can hear. I know you can't trust me, he says, but I've never lied to you. Her hands tremble inside her gloves. She hates that her body remembers the feel of him, the moments when he looked at her like she wasn't a monster. She tells herself, it's manipulation because that's what Warner does, but when he reaches out, just brushing her arm through the fabric, she doesn't pull away. Kenji bursts into the hallway, breaking the spell. We're leaving, now. His voice is sharp, urgent. Behind him, alarms are already beginning to wail. Warner doesn't try to stop them, he just watches as Juliette backs away, her heart hammering against her ribs. They make it out into the snow with the files, but Juliette can't shake the feeling that Warner let her go. Back at Omega Point, Castle is pleased with the haul. The files could be critical to their next operations. But Juliette barely hears him. She's replaying Warner's words, his tone, the way he didn't raise a weapon. Adam notices her distraction. When he asks if something happened, she says no. The lie tastes bitter on her tongue. Later, Kenji corners her in the corridor. He tells her he saw Warner in the hallway, saw the way they were standing too close. Whatever game he's playing, don't let him win, Kenji says. Juliette bristles, tells him it's none of his business. But she knows he's right. Warner's presence lingers like a shadow she can't shake. The next few days are tense. Adam's withdrawal continues. Castle's expectations grow heavier, and Juliette's thoughts keep drifting back to Warner's eyes in the stark white hall. She doesn't want to admit it, but part of her wonders if everything she's been told about him is only part of the truth. Castle calls Juliette to his office before dawn. His tone is measured, but tense. Intelligence suggests Warner might have valuable information on the Supreme Commander's upcoming operations, information that could tip the balance in Omega Point's favor. The catch: Warner has been captured during a skirmish and is currently in their custody. Castle wants Juliette to speak to him. Juliette's stomach tightens. She knows Castle is testing her as much as he's seeking information. She agrees, though her mind is a storm of questions. The holding area is dim, the air heavy with damp stone. Warner sits on a cot, his posture perfect despite the bruises along his jaw. His hands are cuffed, but his eyes are sharp, unwavering when they meet hers. For a long moment, neither speaks. Then he says her name, quiet but certain, like he knew she'd come. She tells herself not to react, not to give him any ground. Warner doesn't waste time. He tells her the Supreme Commander is planning a massive sweep of rebel safe houses, that Omega Point is already on the list. His price for the information is simple. He wants to speak to her alone, without Castle or the guards present. It's a risk, but something in his tone, urgent, almost raw, makes her agree. When the guards leave, Warner leans forward, lowering his voice. He tells her he's not like his father. He's not interested in ruling through fear for its own sake. Then he proves it. He takes her hand, bare skin against bare skin. She braces for the rush of power, the life-draining current that comes with her touch. But nothing happens. He's immune, completely immune. The realization hits her like a blow. There's only one other person who can touch her like this, Adam. And now, Warner. Warner tells her he's felt this way about her since the moment they met, that he's never wanted to hurt her. He says he understands her power because he has one of his own. He can absorb and channel the abilities of others through touch. That's why her power doesn't affect him, it becomes his to wield. The implication sinks in. He's not just immune. He's dangerous in a way no one at Omega Point has imagined. Before Juliette can process any of it, Kenji arrives with orders to move Warner. The reestablishment is advancing, and they can't keep him here. The plan is to use him to guide them out of the most dangerous areas. Warner doesn't resist as they lead him away, but his eyes stay locked on hers until the door shuts. The next day, the mission begins. Juliette, Kenji, and Warner move together through hostile territory, avoiding patrols and slipping through Ruined streets. Warner's directions are precise, his instincts sharp. He moves like a man who's spent his whole life navigating enemy lines. Kenji keeps a close watch, distrust radiating off him. Juliette tries to focus on the mission, but every time Warner's hand brushes hers, the jolt of contact reminds her of what she learned in the cell. Halfway through the route, they're spotted. Gunfire erupts, shattering the silence. Warner pulls Juliette behind cover, shielding her with his body as bullets tear into the wall beside them. Kenji returns fire, shouting for them to move. When they break for the next alley, Juliette sees Warner drop a soldier with nothing more than a touch, his power, mirrored and deadly. The sight is both terrifying and impossible to look away from. They make it back to Omega Point's perimeter just before nightfall. Warner is escorted back to holding, but not before he leans close enough for her to hear him say, "You feel it too." She doesn't answer. Kenji watches the exchange, suspicion hardening in his eyes. That night, Adam confronts her. He's heard about Warner's immunity, about the mission, about the contact between them. His voice is tight, controlled, but the hurt bleeds through. Juliette tries to explain that it changes nothing, but Adam shakes his head. "It changes everything," he says, and walks away. Omega Point feels different now. The corridors are louder, busier, the air heavy with urgency. Patrols come and go constantly, scouts bringing back news of the reestablishment's movements. The attack isn't a question anymore. It's inevitable. Juliette feels it in the clipped conversations, the tense glances exchanged between soldiers. Even Castle is quieter, his measured calm replaced by something harder. Adam avoids her. When they do cross paths, his eyes are guarded, his voice cool. She knows it's not just about Warner, it's about the truth they can't change. His immunity is fading, and every touch between them carries the risk of pain. One evening, she finds him in the training room, his shirt damp with sweat. She asks him to talk. He finally says what she's been afraid to hear: "We can't keep pretending this is going to work." The words land like a blow. Kenji finds her afterward, slumped against the wall. He doesn't soften the truth. He tells her she needs to stop measuring her worth by who she can or can't love, that she has to start thinking like a fighter, not a girl trapped in a love story. It's harsh, but she knows he's right. If she can't pull herself together, she'll be a liability in the battle to come. The attack comes faster than anyone expected. Scouts report enemy forces massing at the surface entrances. Castle orders everyone to battle stations. The air in Omega Point crackles with the sound of weapons being readied, boots pounding on stone floors. Juliette stands with her unit, her gloves already off, her power humming in her veins. For once, she's not afraid of it. Castle makes a calculated decision. Warner knows the reestablishment's tactics better than anyone, and they need him. On the field, when the cell doors open, Warner steps out like he's been waiting for this moment. He nods to Juliette as they move toward the front lines. There's no time for anything more. The fight explodes across the snowy wasteland. The ground shakes under the roar of artillery. Juliette moves through the chaos like a blade, taking down soldiers with a single touch. Kenji's invisibility flickers in and out as he darts between enemies, Adam covering the flanks with precise gunfire. She catches sight of Warner in the distance, moving like a force of nature, absorbing power from those around him and striking with devastating precision. The reestablishment's assault is relentless. Explosives tear into the ground, sending showers of dirt and ice into the air. Juliette realizes too late what they're doing. They're not just attacking. They're trying to bring the underground base down on itself. Castle orders a retreat, but the exits are already compromised. Juliette and Kenji push through falling debris, searching for any way out. She loses sight of Adam in the smoke and snow. Panic claws at her, but Kenji drags her forward, shouting that they have to keep moving. Somewhere in the distance, she hears Warner's voice calling orders to his soldiers, not reestablishment soldiers anymore, but Omega Point fighters. When they finally regroup in a temporary shelter, the losses are clear. Omega Point is in ruins. The castle's people are scattered. The reestablishment has struck a blow that will take time to recover from, time they might not have. Adam is alive, but there's no relief in his expression when their eyes meet. Warner stands at the edge of the room, watching her, a faint bruise on his jaw and something unreadable in his gaze. That night, Juliette lies awake, the image of The collapsing tunnels burned into her mind. The girl who once hid from the world is gone. She knows now that she can't just react to the war, she has to be part of shaping it. Somewhere between Adam's distance and Warner's impossible truths, she's found the core of who she needs to become. And when the next fight comes, she'll be ready.